On this episode of Message Meg, we're tackling what's on everyone's mind but rarely talked about: relationships and sex, how hormones could be impacting intimacy, and what you can do about it. We're getting real, getting honest, and answering your most personal questions. It's part one of a 5-part series on hormone replacement therapy, how chemicals in your body are shaping your mood, energy, and yes, relationships. The conversation starts now. Welcome back, everyone, to Message Meg. We're now going to get into a topic that people want to know about, but many are going to feel uncomfortable talking about these types of things to their doctors. We're going to talk about relationships and sex, and we're going to be frank and detailed and answer some of your most personal adult questions. Joining me now is Dr. Eileen Pallas, Director of the Center for Sexual Health. She's a clinical and medical psychologist specializing in women and men's sexual dysfunction, marital and couples therapy, anxiety, and mood disorders. And she's been counseling patients for 35 years. Welcome.
Thank you very much for asking me
You promised me honesty. Since we're on the topic of hormones, let's first start with that.
Okay.
That absolutely makes a difference in people's relationships and sexual function when they don't have their hormones.
Absolutely. There are many factors that are involved in sexual function: interpersonal, personal, physical, psychological, but hormones is a critical, essentially important thing in order for sexual function, and that includes sexual desire, sexual arousal, orgasms, and even influences pain disorders. Yes, very, very important for men and women.
And one of the things I've noticed, because I've been on my hormones since day one of menopause, testosterone, although all three, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, make a difference, but the testosterone was the game changer for me. And I've told this story to so many of my friends. In my late 40s, I gained 20 pounds in 2 months. I had fatigue, and there was zero sexual desire functioning. And my father, who was an OBGYN, figured out that I needed to have my testosterone checked, and it was at 0, Dr. Pallas. Putting me back on my testosterone changed everything. Do you see that in your patients?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I ask them to do it. I don't think most MDs automatic, unless they're specialists like you talk to in reproductive endocrinology. Most OBGYNs are not going to have that knowledge. Yes, absolutely. I say, hey, let's go get your hormones checked. We'll do a hormone screen, and we'll see where you are pre-post menopausally. We'll also see where your testosterone level is. Testosterone, just like it does, men are lucky. Testosterone's a wonderful thing. We don't have as much, but testosterone is going to increase your muscle mass, help with weight loss and getting rid of belly fat. It's going to increase your energy, it improves your mood, and it does dynamite for your libido. That is your sexual drive or your interest in sexual activity.
I have friends who say, my husband's retired, he wants to have sex every day now, and I have zero desire because he's home all the time, and they say, I'm not on my hormones, and I have zero interest, and I can't perform, all that type of thing. They get on their hormones, their testosterone, and everything changes from your thoughts to your performance. What are you seeing in your patients?
Well, that's how we define sexual drive and sexual drive or interest or libido. People call it different things. We define that even in psychologically in the diagnostic and statistical manual. Do you diagnose it by how are you have thoughts about sexual activity? Do you dream about sexual activity? If you see someone attractive on the street, not to act on it. Do you have a thought about that person sexually? How often do you initiate sexual activity? And then, of course, how often do you have sexual activity with a partner, and how often do you masturbate? Those are the criteria we look for to measure drive, and testosterone is going to increase all of those, i.e. it increases your sexual drive dramatically. And
one of the things I noticed, my friends who say testosterone was a game changer, is if I've had none. I've had normal for a woman, and I've also had where I was on a little bit too much. I didn't think the same, look the same, act the same, fantasize the same. And it was amazing to me that one hormone, a little bit too high or a little bit too low, changed everything about me. You know how they always say 18-year-old boys every 30 seconds have a thought about sex. When my testosterone was just a little bit too high, I want to say every 20 seconds. Right. And I was shocked the effect of testosterone on the brain.
Yeah, of course.
Your biggest sex organ is the brain.
Absolutely, 99% of sex is actually psychological. But yeah, absolutely, testosterone. But you know, Yes, sex, absolutely. Like I said, drive, arousal, orgasms, all of that. But also, it's not just sex. Testosterone and estrogen influence every organ system in your body. So you are going to feel, like you said, a very different person. I mean, estrogen alone, but combined with testosterone, which is usually how we recommend people take it, is going to affect, it goes from that libido that we talked about and low sexual desire to vaginal atrophy if you don't have it, osteoporosis in your bones, insomnia, problems with cognitive function, memory loss, down the line. We've even found that hormones are going to change. People who start taking hormone replacement therapy, there's an increase longitudinally in how long they live. So it affects longevity, mortality, as well as and autoimmune function also. So you have better immunological functioning if you have that, because every organ system in your body is functioning better. I have women say to me all the time, oh, well, you know, I'm not having hot flashes and I've gotten through that, so I don't need to be on hormone replacement. I'm thinking, what about your brain? What about your bones? What about your bladder? Because it also affects, you get atrophy there too, as well as vaginally. So it's your whole body you're really taking care of. So if you're not sexually active, please don't think to yourself, oh, I don't need hormone replacement therapy. We all do. Mother Nature's very mean to women.
So you talked about orgasm. So when you don't have your hormones, even if you've always been able to have an orgasm, you can't, because all the ingredients, the physiology in there to make all those muscles work correctly. And a lot of people think, oh, it's just me, or maybe I'm not interested anymore, when it's really just needing the hormone replacement to have an orgasm.
Well, it's not, I wouldn't say you couldn't. I think it's much more difficult, though, certainly. For those people who've had orgasms all their life or masturbate frequently, you know, the jump started and the use it or lose it principle is very true. So I always recommend people keep masturbating and having sex if they can, because that's going to keep your body working. But the testosterone is going to make that much, much easier to work, because not only women, you're going to have that vaginal atrophy, which means that the inner tissue in your vagina is going to get very thin, very frail. It tears easily. Your clitoris is going to shrink. Your labia are going to shrink. Well, so there's not as much to work with, for one thing, and it's not as responsive, and you're not going to have lubrication, and it's very fragile. It may, in fact, and usually does hurt. If you get vaginal atrophy, which you may notice, you're going to be very dry with no lubrication, and it's going to tear. So you're not likely to be using your hand or a vibrator, the things that would give you adequate stimulation to get an orgasm. It's going to be too tough, and it's going to hurt, and then pretty soon you don't have the desire because the pain is there. So you just stop bothering.
So, you know, I actually had patients of my father's. My father was an OBGYN and a menopause.
He started me on hormones too.
And me too. He was a menopause expert, and he had women who told him getting on my hormones saved my marriage, because couples were just going apart, because you said the vaginal dryness, the pain, which led, and the lack of desire. Do you see that in couples you counsel, that they just start not wanting to have sex with each other?
Yeah, that happens either direction. It can start with the woman, it can start with the man, whether he has ED or erectile dysfunction. But when they stop being sexual together in all kinds of different venues, doesn't have to be intercourse, when they stop being intimate and sexual and their hormones start to go down, it's a catch-22. You don't have hormones, you feel less aroused and less desire. You have less arousal and less desire, then you do that use it or lose it thing. You stop acting on it as often, so then you kind of lose interest. So the two of them play off what you're doing behaviorally and what's happening to you hormonally, and the two of them are going to play together, either to spiral upward and I have couples in their 80s who are having terrific sex lives.
Well, that's no fair. I'm jealous. Well, but let's talk about body image, because we know that being on your hormones helps you keep your waist weight down and not get the big belly, and you feel better. And body image, I know is important to men, but so important to women. How many women don't want to have the lights on because they feel like they've gained a few pounds and, oh, he's going to see this jiggle? More than men. And we've joked before, there are those videos people make, and it's how to arouse a woman, and they're like 10 minutes long. Take the garbage out without being asked.
Vacuum the
Send
floor
her
for
flowers.
me, honey.
Right. Tell her she's beautiful. And it goes on, and finally 10 minutes later you get to the sex part, where for a man...
she's sleeping.
Right. And for a man it just says... get naked in front of him, and that's all a man needs. But we really have different ways of getting to be aroused in our brains, in general, men and women.
Yes, we have very, very good data on that. And the thing that's interesting is that men tend to be, I think, even more linear. That is, women are more circular, and I'll explain that. Men tend to think, okay, see something attractive like that woman with the light turned on, sees a naked body, I'm attracted. And then subjectively he's aroused, physiologically he's aroused, either one happens first. And then he'll have intercourse and or foreplay, intercourse, and then go to sleep and he's good to go, generally.
Right.
Women are much more circular. They are not linear. Women function in a context. The context of their day, the context of their body image, the way they're feeling about themselves and the way they're feeling about the relationship. So if you think, for example, did he kiss me good morning? Did he say goodbye on the way out the door? Did he text me during the day? Does he give me eye contact when he's looking at me? Did he tell me I look beautiful?
Did he go to the jewelry store and get? No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, I'm okay too.
Yeah,
he plays footsie under the table with me at dinner. You know, is he listening? That's a really biggie. Is he paying attention to me? If a woman feels that way, she's much more likely to be attracted, interested, and receptive to any advances that he or she may initiate, may make. But that's the big difference. Women are circular, so all of these things go kind of around in their day, and contextual. Men tend to be much more direct.
And does that cause problems? I'm thinking about how couples who've been married for decades, you know, or even 20 years, it doesn't have to be 40 years, and with the same person, they just lose interest. How do you get that interest back? And now they're going through menopause, and men through andropause. And they may think it's all psychological, but some may be that they don't have their hormones, and some may be that they've been with the same person. How do you treat that?
Actually, they usually assume that it's physical. My first job was almost always to talk them out of, oh, I'm just older. This is normal when I get old, isn't it? No, absolutely not. Sexual dysfunction is not normal, and as I said a minute ago, there's no reason you can't have a happy, wonderful, loving sex life as long as you live. No reason. A sign of sexual dysfunction means something's not working. So yes, they may need the hormones, they may need some physical treatment, and psychological treatment, I hate that word. People think, oh, it means it's all in my head. Doesn't mean that. It means things are happening to you in the relationship with you. So your body image is one of them. Being depressed, being anxious, stress, fatigue, all of these things are going to affect your sexual function, along with the hormones, pharmaceutical products, antidepressants, anxiolytics, cardiovascular medications, blood pressure medications, and all of those things are going to decrease, not necessarily going to, but very likely their side effects for many people is to decrease sexual function. So you have to think about the drugs you're using, if you've had any kind of surgeries, cardiovascular problems that affects blood flow, thyroid problems, and there's a lot of factors. Sex is tricky. There's a lot of factors. I think of sex as the last final common denominator in our lives. So how will you take care of yourself and take care of your relationship all comes together in the end, and how sexually functional you are.
So couples who've been together for a long time, we know when you first meet someone, the dopamine is flowing.
Yes.
Your brain, you can't live without them. And then you see couples been together for many, many years, and it's like, oh gosh, when is he going out of town for his next business trip or whatever? And you're saying that you can keep that alive even though those chemicals aren't flowing, that dopamine, and still have just as much fun sexually 30 years into a relationship as you do when you first meet?
Absolutely, and you can look at that biochemically if you want to, since you mentioned the dopamine, but you can also look at it in terms of behavior, in terms of cognitions, in terms of sexual activity. There's a lot of things that you
What does that mean?
You can do. Well, the biochemical is just, there's a dopamine rush when you first have intercourse in a brand new relationship, and Mother Nature, we think, gave us that as an adaptation device because it helps you bond. So you feel like you want to have sex again with that person.
Oxytocin, the
bonding. Yes,
okay.
Oxytocin and dopamine. It helps the couple stay together. The dopamine dies out after a while in a relationship. But the other hormones that kick in are the ones that lead to intimacy and commitment. So actually when that has, serotonin is one of them, when that happens you actually want to, you don't have that big initial, the novelty, we call it, effect. When you have the big rush of wow and you can't think about anything.
I think men call it strange. They want strange. Okay.
You're jittery. You can't think of anything else. You're distracted. The I'm madly in love stage. That is the oxytocin and the dopamine. After you've had sex with a person for a longer period of time, Mother Nature changes those hormones, and the serotonin, the norepinephrine, they start to kick in, and those are going to help you feel the, I guess we'll call it love. That you start to feel attached to that person, bonded to that person. You don't want to leave them. You feel like you have some permanent connection to them. And so that's what helps couples stay together and stay with the same partner, actually.
And staying on the hormone replacement, estrogen is tied to the serotonin in your brain. And that's why people can have postpartum depression, because they lose the serotonin after they go through a delivery. And so it all works back to getting those blood results, getting your hormones in check. All right, Dr. Eileen Pallas. Always interesting. Anything else that you wanted to say before we go?
Just that I really encourage all the things we've talked about. I really encourage women to be proactive in their own physical, sexual health. Go get a test early on, preferably when you're premenopausal, and find out what your hormone levels are so that you know what your baseline is. This is not a one-size-fits-all kind of a deal. So they can't just take a lab number. We need those, but you can't just take a lab number and say, well, you're out of the range. What are you feeling subjectively? How good is your relationship going? How are you having dreams? Are you thinking about it? Are you feeling about it? What's happening in your head? And what do the labs look like? And how are you feeling? Like I said, how's your weight doing? Your energy level, your mood. Watch those things and monitor them. Get a lab done as a pre-baseline, and then you'll have a better anchor when you're postmenopausal.
To that point, I met a hot 40-year-old in the gym, a woman who knew something was off. And in shape the whole bit. She had her testosterone checked, and it was at 0 at only 40 years old. And she knew something was going on with her husband. When you look at her body and you think, okay, who wouldn't want to have sex with you right now, her husband? And that's what it was at only 40. The testosterone was gone. So you're right, get it checked. All right, Dr. Eileen Pallas, thank you. Hot flashes, mood swings, sleepless nights. Millions of women endure it, but too many suffer in silence. In part 2 of our powerful 5-part series on hormone replacement therapy, we're breaking the silence. 3 women open up about their struggles with menopause, the setbacks, frustrations, and the specialists who help them take back control. We're taking a deep dive into several topics on hormone replacement and total body health. In today's episode, 3 women who know what it feels like to go through menopause and not have hormone replacement, and what they experienced when they were treated by doctors who are hormone specialists. They're going to tell us their stories. Today we have Gia Blanchard, Liz Catley, and Lisa Schlesinger, and welcome. And I'm not telling anyone y'all's ages until the end of the show, because they're not going to believe how old we all are. I'm really 95, but I'm on my hormones. Okay, so let's first talk about the difference you felt when you had your hormones, just in overall health. Gia.
So much better. I was very young when I had to have my ovaries and uterus taken out, and just had 4 kids and just couldn't get up in the morning, couldn't go, and then saw your father, and he took care of me all those years and helped me get my life back how it was prior.
I should say, my father, Dr. Charles Farris, was an OBGYN and a hormone expert, and he's the reason I'm so passionate about this and started on my hormones on day 1. In fact, I'll start by telling everyone that in my late 40s, I gained 20 pounds in 2 months. I was miserable. I could not lift my head off the pillow. The fatigue was crushing. And it was, go exercise more, go do this, just do this. Well, my father figured out, he looked at me and saw how big I'd gotten, how miserable I was, and he said, I want to check your total and free testosterone. My testosterone had gone to 0. And a lot of people don't know that women's ovaries make testosterone. It's responsible for your sex drive. It's responsible for your muscle mass. Testosterone dries tears. It makes you keep your muscles, which means your metabolism. And he got me back on my testosterone, and I was normal. I felt normal again. And then in my early 50s, he checked my blood, and I needed my estrogen and progesterone replacement. So that brings me to you, Liz, because I watched this transformation. You saw me in the difference that And of course, lifestyle. It's what you eat. You have to
It
exercise.
is.
You
It
can't
is.
get on your hormones and
No,
do whatever.
right.
It
But
totally
you
is.
said, what are you doing? And I said, Liz, I'm on my hormones and I weight lift every day. And I didn't see you for a little while, and then I saw you, and you looked like a new woman.
Yes.
What
I am.
happened?
I took your advice. I ran, not walked, straight to my OBGYN. I had my blood checked. We found out that I had I think my testosterone at that time was a 3.
A 0.3.
0.3.
Yes.
Yeah, like nothing. Like they're like, yeah, you're at no estrogen, no progesterone. They're like, no wonder why you can't get out of your own way. And I mean, I couldn't get out of my own way. And that's the bad thing about it is everybody goes, y'all go exercise. But when you're exhausted, you know, or halfway through, you know, I'd be on the stair step or whatever and go, I gotta get off. I gotta go take a nap.
And it's not like you're sleepy, like you haven't slept, you
No.
stayed out
Exactly.
too late.
No.
It is a crushing fatigue. Lisa, what's your story? When did you start on your hormones?
Probably a long time, long before these women started theirs.
But I mean, about what age? Were you menopausal around 50?
In my late 40s. And I called your father, and he tested me. I don't remember what my levels were, but he injected, that was when he had the pellets. This was very early on.
Little pellet implants, like a grain of rice that
like
go
Tic
under your
Tacs.
skin.
Under your
Yes,
skin.
and they
What I do.
release your hormones slowly,
Correct.
just like your ovaries would have
Correct.
done if
I
they were.
exercised. I was very active. I showed American saddlebreds. I weightlifted. I ran. I did all the things. I ate properly. I did not, and I still don't eat processed foods. I take care of my skin, all of the above, but I was fatigued. And I just, it was a different method than with the pellets.
When you got on them, did you change back to being
Oh yes.
the 30-year-old you? 40-year-old you?
I was a little older. Yes, I was older. Since we're not discussing
Yes.
what ages are.
But did it make you feel
Yes,
like you did
correct,
at that age?
Correct.
It did. It did.
Correct. Everything was much better. Much better.
What about the brain fog? A lot of women who don't have their
Oh,
estrogen
yeah.
say they have brain fog.
I don't think I suffered for that, but I think all of my life was better, and still is better.
And Liz,
Still.
did you have the brain fog?
I did. I did. Terribly. Terribly. And it almost clears up overnight. Once they get you right where you need to be, you're like, and testosterone, I've never been on crack before. But let me tell you something. I would imagine, I seriously would imagine that is what that is like. When that testosterone, and you've got energy again, and you start seeing your body transform, you're like, oh yeah. I mean, it is such a game changer. And I think women hear the word testosterone, I think they're terrified.
Well, let me tell you, my father, when he was still alive, had to argue with the insurance company who said, oh, women don't make testosterone. And he said very calmly, let me explain anatomy of women. Women's ovaries do make testosterone. I will tell you that when my testosterone got back normal, I was Meg again.
Yeah.
Now, at one point, the testosterone I was taking, when he brought home different estrogen patches, estrogen and progesterone patches, it made the testosterone work better, the same amount. So my testosterone got a little too high. I was never leaner. I had never had more energy. I was competitive. I did get, a few little breakouts and all. But he checked my blood. He said, you need to lower it back now. But and I'll tell you something interesting too. The testosterone is responsible for your libido, your sex drive.
Right.
And when my testosterone was a little too high for a woman, not at all like, a man's, my brother, who's a neurobiologist, I was horny all the time. You know how they say a 15-year-old boy thinks about sex every 30 seconds? It was every 15 seconds. And I asked my brother, I said, this is one little chemical in my body, just a little too high. I don't look the same, think the same, act the same, dream the same, nothing's the same. I said, how is it that this one hormone makes that much of a difference? He said, oh yeah, it makes a total difference.
But everybody's different because I was getting the hormone pellets because I couldn't take the shots, and your dad introduced me to him, and he said, like, I had 0 testosterone and a low estrogen, but I would eat through the testosterone pellets quicker because our bodies, like, I guess, need
they
it.
just grab
And
it.
it would make me feel so good. So one time, my husband says, Gia, I'm coming to meet Dr. Farris with you. I'm coming to see him. Okay?
The guru.
So he comes with me and
He wanted to
says,
thank him?
He wanted to thank him. He says, Dr. Farris, I want to thank you so much because without you, he's like, my wife wouldn't be horny and happy all the time. Because it just makes you happy when
It
your
does.
hormones are leveled, and it makes you happy, and you know.
I know.
You feel good.
It was.
You
It
do.
did.
You do.
The people around me were like, oh, we wish you'd started on that years ago. You know, it's like, yeah, it's
My
you have a
boyfriend at the
much-
time,
you have a much better
he
attitude.
appreciated it. He came with me the first time, and he did, and then we adjusted it. But it was also the cycle, how the cycle. We saw the cycle, and we adjusted the cycle with the pellets, and then,
Right, exactly.
and, and
Because
then-
they have to titrate it.
Right.
No two people
Right.
are alike.
Exactly. That's
Everyone
right.
gets a different amount. My father, and now my current doctor, since my father's deceased, checks my blood and says, "You're here, Meg. You need to be here.
Right.
Somebody else may be here and needs to be
Exactly.
here." So it is personally titrated for what I need to be.
But
Exactly.
it's weird because I was getting them since I was 32.
Because you had a hysterectomy.
Correct.
Right.
At 30 years old, both ovaries, uterus came out. And so I was like so desperate because it was like, what happened to me? I used to like work out and teach dancing and do all that. Well, then with, it getting to the point now, I think I've had them so much that I started to reject them. Because
The pellets.
yeah. And I was going like every 6 months, but then I would eat through the normal ones that I was doing. So now they've got me, thanks to you, telling me some different things that they can do. And I had no idea, like, I don't have ovaries or uterus, but they have me on progesterone. And they have me on the testosterone gel, which I feel like I did, and probably even better than when I was on the pellets. So I think as
awesome.
our age, I think as we get older, maybe, does it change?
Okay, so I'll tell you
Yeah.
the story. I was initially, so when I hit my early 50s, my father checked my blood. He said, you've crossed from perimenopause to menopause. He started me on my estrogen and progesterone patches. Now remember, I was already on my testosterone from my mid-40s. Okay, so what happened was, one patch twice a week. I get to my mid-50s, and my father checks my blood, and he goes, I'm gonna move you up to 2 patches twice a week, but I don't want you to bleed. If you bleed, I need to titrate the amount I'm giving you. Okay. Well then, and I have to say, my OBGYN, when he would do my pelvic exam, would say, you look like an 18-year-old. And I go, I don't understand. He goes, I don't have any patients who never dropped in their hormones, because your father started you on them on day one. You've always been steady, so everything, the plumbing is all still like an 18-year-old. Well, then about mid-50s, 2 patches. Okay. Well, my father passed away about a few years more. I started noticing I lost my waist a little bit. My waist got a little straight. Okay, think about it. You have a straight body, and then you go through puberty, and you get a curved body.
Right.
Well, my waist started getting straight, and the doctor, my OBGYN, said, not an 18-year-old down there anymore, maybe a 23-year-old. I said, wait, what's wrong? Right. This is interesting. I checked my blood, and my estrogen was down to a 5. So my current hormone doctor, I said, how can that be? I'm on 2 patches twice a week. And she said, I see this all the time in women your age. They stop absorbing. She says, I need to switch you over to Shot of the Month Club.
That's
right.
You need injection, no more patches. So you see, as we age, you need different delivery. Did you find that, Lisa?
Well, that's after your dad died, and my current OBGYN has me on, that's what I'm on is
Injection,
injections.
yeah, me too.
Yes, every 21, 28 days is
Yes.
what I'm on now.
Yes.
And I really, it's just interesting how it has fluctuated my life and my
the delivery system has changed, right?
and the whole thing, it has changed, and I'm still checked every 6 months. I really like it better. And I think for some reason I like it better than the pellets.
Yeah.
Just the delivery system.
So how about you, Gia? What is your delivery system now?
Well, now I do the gel, the testosterone gel where they compound it,
Yep.
and then you rub it like in your inner thigh, and then I take progesterone at night. And it's like just totally, it's kind of gotten me back where I used to be when I first, was in my 30s and getting all this done. So,
what about your estrogen? Right now you're taking
my estrogen has always been okay, but I've always, I love, I guess, testosterone. It was like, it was like Dr. Ferris used to say. He was like, I can't keep this in you. And I could tell, I knew that when it was time for my, my hormones, I'd say, oh, it's time. I'd start crying. Like, I need to go see Dr. Ferris, right? You would know.
And yours may do that because you have some metabolic autoimmune type things going on.
I do have lupus, so I have lupus,
everyone,
so it's,
So how has it changed, y'all's? I mean, I'm looking at all of you, and you look so incredible and so young. Do people notice that you look younger than the average Josephine?
I was at a ladies' luncheon last Friday, and a young lady came up to me, and she was 45, and she said, "You look amazing." And somebody told me how old you were, and she's like, "What are you on?" And she asked, and I said, because she said, I have to go to the bathroom all the time just to like mop because I'm sweating so much. And I was like, baby, Monday, you pick up that phone, you call your OBGYN, and then you run. You do not walk to go get that blood panel and get yourself started on, and she said, but aren't they dangerous? And I said, oh heavens no. And that is something I so hope that your medical panel makes crystal clear to women that this is not dangerous at all. And it is really good for us, really, really good for us. And it will stop so many problems that you're having. And so
well, how is y'all's cholesterol and all those markers?
Just had mine done. My blood is so perfect. They're like, how do you keep going through all this stuff that you go through and the cancers and the things, and you pull this blood? It's because of the hormones.
And we should go ahead.
I think that is also. I think that this generation, or these women are younger than me, and that I think that it is a lifestyle. I think that so much of it is your lifestyle, that you are conscious of your eating, your entire lifestyle. And that if they ask you, that you should say what you do and how you choose to live your life, and not be sedentary, and be conscious of how you feel, and not fall into be conscious.
Yeah, well, Lisa, no, you're right. We are not saying to everyone listening, oh, don't wear your sunscreen, take your hormones, you won't get wrinkles. We're not saying go eat, donuts all day long and take your hormones. No, but the difference it makes is it makes me feel like I did at 30, so it makes me want to go to the gym every day and weight lift and do those kind of things, because I feel like a younger person, and I don't have the brain fog and that type of thing.
And your father would always say this to me, so cute. He'd say, Mrs. Blanchard, he would say, if you don't take care of yourself, then you're not going to be good for anybody else in your family. And so, I used to sit back and I'm like, okay, then I'm putting on my face cream all the time. And I'm, because my grandmother and great grandmother taught me how to, take care of myself into that aspect. So
but
I think,
Gia, when you were having troubles with getting all those testosterone levels right, when you got it right, your weight dropped kind of naturally.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
You feel like I don't want to eat as much. It makes, I don't know, it just made, like you said earlier, you'd get like an extra 5 pounds, or you couldn't get it off, and you're exhausted. So, I didn't even want to go put clothes in the washer, or, cook dinner or anything. So then now you're starting to live your life again, so you're getting your weight back down, and you're busy, like doing something, and you're not thinking about depressed because you're depressed because your hormones aren't where they're supposed to be, so your body's going all through,
well, that's
going all
interesting.
over.
There was a study that showed that when women got off their hormones with that Women's Health Initiative because they thought they were bad for you, Antidepressant prescriptions doubled in women. Suicide
Suicide, yep.
went up. Xanax doubled in women. And all they needed were their hormones. Not everyone. Of course, there's a time and place. But a lot of that was driven by their brains not being metabolically right because they didn't have their hormones, because your estrogen is tied to your serotonin level in your brain, that neurotransmitter that, you know, kind of the feel-good transmitter.
It all falls into the same thing, that it makes you want to do these things, that it falls if your hormones, that you feel better about yourself, like you're saying, you want to feel better. If you feel better for yourself, then you feel better with everyone around you.
Have y'all had a bone density? Because I wanted to tell you, I had a bone density recently. And I came out, you know, I had my mammogram, I had my bone density, and the radiologists, they never come out of their little private area where they're reading. And she came out and she was looking at the paper and doing this to me, and I thought, oh God, I'm dying. And I went, what's wrong? Well, and I started, you know, I'm dying of bone cancer. And she goes, nothing's wrong. She goes, I'm looking at your date of birth, and your bone density is better than any 30-year-old who's come through. And I said, okay, so weightlifting built my bones and it's keeping my bones, but my estrogen is keeping it from leaching away. So is y'all's bone, and I have people my age who have osteoporosis, and it doesn't have to be. What about your bone?
It runs in our family, but so I have not had any trouble with it so far.
Good bone density. You're on your estrogen.
Right, I'm on my estrogen.
My mother had bone loss and such, and took that Fosamax stuff and everything, and I thought, okay, I'm doomed. No, I'm perfect.
Oh, good.
I'm due. I'm due to get tested.
Okay, you do.
But it is good.
But I think that's important too. Like my OBGYN now, which I think we all probably go to some of the same people. They test you, so they keep. You have to keep getting your mammogram. You have to keep getting all your tests, because in that way they're sitting here saying, "Oh, breast cancer is caused by this and that." But it's like if you're getting tested, then they early detection, so they can then weigh out to see, is it your estrogen? Is it, you know, something?
Oh, definitely have, mammogram.
Because that was
like clockwork
exactly.
every year. And if you have dense breasts, then they now have something new called soft view, where they can get a better look inside your breast, because your breasts are more dense like a younger person, and so they're worried it could hide something. But that's the other thing, is that when you're on your hormones, your breasts don't get as loose and empty, if you will.
Right.
Now, of course, having babies and all that makes a difference. A funny story, when Hurricane Katrina hit, and we were all displaced all over the country. And my father had left and gone. He was staying with one of my brothers in another state. And I was on the air, and people started, you know, we were out covering the storm. And I started getting phone calls at the station from husbands, okay, from men. And this is, and I'm not kidding, okay, there were several. And this is how the conversation went. Meg, you don't know me, but I'm John Doe. Your father is my wife's OBGYN, and we have evacuated to Illinois. And where is your father? Because my wife needs her hormones. So I started getting their phone numbers, calling my father at my brother's house out of state, giving them his patient's numbers so he could call in their hormone prescription in Ohio, Texas, Mississippi, wherever they, and that is the honest truth.
I was one of those patients.
And complete strangers. And I get it, because when Hurricane Ida hit and I missed my hormone shot, I was calling every doctor I knew out of state and saying, can you send it to me? I will find someone who could give me the injection. And I went to, I finally found a pharmacist who I know, who got the medication in, and I was almost a week overdue, and I said, we're out in the terrible damage coverage. I'm coming in. I don't get off till 1 because we've been working overnight. And he said, well, we close at 1. I said, do not close.
I'll be there.
And I went in, and the male pharmacist said, would you like one of the females to give you? I pulled down my pants. I said, give it to me now. like when I was in trouble, my mother used to go, now.
Right.
And he was like, oh, okay.
No problem.
And then all the world was right.
I'm just fine now.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then the fairy tale continued.
Right.
It's like,
But again, we should tell people it is not the end. It's not going to make you young, gorgeous, skinny, all that. You have to do all
Feel
the stuff.
better.
to do all the
You
other stuff,
just
yeah.
feel
But it gives you the
better.
ingredients to
It
do
does.
all that. What were you?
And I will say, like, you have to find the right cocktail because I'm allergic to adhesives, so that nicks
No
the patch.
patches.
No patches.
Okay.
I have issue with my lupus, and so I, like, I guess, filter some of the so I wasn't absorbing any of it. So then so you gotta find what works best. And I have to say they, like Dr. Farris and now the OBGYNs that have taken over since he's passed away, they are willing to work. You know, they're gonna keep trying you
Exactly.
on stuff.
But it's finding the right doctor.
That's correct.
Also,
Oh, yes.
it is finding the right physician that will listen to you. Because I will say that there was another doctor that I went to who would not listen. And I did have another doctor that I didn't like, and I finally found.
They
Well,
say
they're
you're
correct,
crazy.
doctor.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they'd say, "Oh, she's crazy,"
yeah.
or "That poor husband."
You're crazy
Right,
because
right,
our
right.
hormones
No,
are off.
and I
Well,
literally said, no, thank you.
There are doctors, and all the respect to him, who have not studied. It's impossible for
Exactly.
every specialist to know every special thing about every organ in our body. And that's why, my father was a pioneer, and he specialized. He went like back to school or the CME hours to learn everything about hormones, and that made a difference. And there's some doctors who still are looking at that old Women's Health Initiative.
Do you remember the woman
that was poorly done? Yes.
who was poorly done, who said, no, that this is.
And it turned out that all that wasn't
Was-
true. And
Exactly.
there's some doctors who say the media was partially to blame too, because they took data that wasn't really done correctly, and then they blew up all this stuff about cancers. But I remember my father telling me all the less cancer that this would help me. And this is something very interesting. When your body carries more fat around, and the bad fat that's around the belly, the dangerous fat, which causes heart disease and all these things, your whole body is in an inflammatory state.
Correct.
And there are many cancers that are caused just when you carry a whole lot of extra weight because your body is inflammatory. But being on hormones makes me, and I've always had to watch my weight, but being on hormones makes my body work right, so that when I put in the work,
Right.
I get the results.
Results.
Whereas before, I
You
could have put
wouldn't.
in work all
Right.
day long,
Yeah.
and it wasn't going away.
You get
Nothing's gonna
frustrated, like
change
you're
it.
doing all this and it's right.
You're miserable.
Now you're like
Yes.
a well-oiled machine.
Yes.
That you keep going and
Yes.
feeling good. Yeah.
Yes, just need some new knees and hips, but
And you can be around people.
right. Yes. Any other body part we haven't talked about, ladies, that you want to share?
Trying to think.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, I think that's.
All right. Well, I promised everyone that I would let people know how the ages of these absolutely gorgeous women who, when I hadn't seen you in a while,
No,
and
we
when
hadn't
I
seen each
saw
other.
you, I did not. I told you. I said you were lying to me.
You look
Say how
amazing.
old you are,
You look
Lisa.
amazing.
I turn 80 in July.
It's
The other body
amazing.
parts are wearing out, but
Yes.
I did have back surgery. The showing horses has caught up to me.
Yes.
I had to stop showing horses 6 years ago, which has been difficult. So
Yes.
it has been harder to.
I know the feeling from being a jogger on concrete for
Yes,
40,
so
45 years.
I walk
Yes.
with a good friend, and I exercise 2 or 3 days a week. I do extreme slow motion exercise. and,
Weightlifting?
It's very slow and it's timed, and
Excellent.
I should be doing a little more lifting, but and walking.
Yeah, doing pretty
But-
good. Well, what a testament.
But
Liz.
it is genetic.
ma'am.
It is genetic. So.
I just had my 63rd birthday.
And
So,
beautiful.
Thank
yeah,
you.
Yeah.
I'm hanging in there.
Excellent.
Hanging in there. Thanks to
Yeah.
you.
And Gia?
I will be 56 in September.
Yeah. Which is hard to believe. I mean, you remember the days when, back in the day when, you know, you let your hair go gray and you wore a bun and you didn't try to be pretty because you were, you know,
Right.
by the time you were 30 and, you know, oh, you were married and you didn't do it. And now, I remember my grandmother telling me, women when they hit a certain age don't wear your hair down.
Yes.
Right?
Ooh, that's
Right.
if she were alive
cut it.
today. Yes,
Right, or
yes,
cut it,
yes.
or
If she were
cut
alive
it.
today. Okay.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
we'll continue this fun girl talk
Yes.
after the cameras are gone. But thank you all so much for
you.
sharing,
Thank
because
you
these
for
are
having
personal
us.
stories
Sure.
about some personal things, and my genuine, sincere hope is that people out there learn from it, or at least, if it's not for you, just go talk to a doctor who can you can ask these questions of.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Totally.
Thank you
Yes.
very much. On the next Message Meg, women face unique challenges as they age, but a new conversation on hormone replacement is changing the game. How does it impact whole body health? Do effects vary by race? And when should women start considering it? Plus, estrogen in skincare. Do anti-aging creams really work with estrogen? Experts break down the science. We'll break it all down for you in part 3 of our 5-part series next Wednesday at 9 o'clock on WWL+. Stream it live or watch it on demand. Just download the app on your TV and watch it free.